When the teams step into action, different criteria such as national legislation, humanitarian law, the context, and the safety of victims must be taken into account. This is where the legal department intervenes to facilitate the smooth running of our operations.
The challenge for MSF is not to act outside the law, but to establish in international law which elements we can use to confront national legislations.
The objective in war-torn countries is to protect victims and healthcare facilities, because normal rules, and in particular notification of cases of violence, no longer apply.
In a conflict situation, it can be dangerous if the army becomes aware that in our hospital we're treating rape victims, rape committed by their soldiers. There's always a kind of disconnect between what is normal with normal rules and the totally abnormal and critical situations we work in.
So the teams have an important question. If the authorities aren't protecting the victims, who is? Can we legitimately send home somebody who is in danger?
It's a question of medical responsibility, the obligation to care for another person. We try to find a solution with the victim so that what happened doesn't happen again.
The priority is to treat and to keep patients in the hospital long enough to give them time to find a solution.
It can take several hours or days even for somebody to talk about something. I remember a grandmother, for example, saying, "Stop sending the child home." It was the second time we'd seen the child. That's usually when we start to wonder. She said, "My son is completely irresponsible. I'll take her home and will look after her myself."
The fact that MSF is a foreign NGO doesn't mean we can do as we please in other countries. The legal department helps the teams to establish and negotiate the administrative and legal framework within which they can operate.
MSF now works mainly in conflict-free countries, where we run major programs, surgery, vaccination, medical research and nutritional programs, that necessitate huge responsibility and a lot of staff.
The legal department's role is to know and understand each country's national legislation, and should MSF decide to override it, how to manage the potential risks. Another of the department's tasks is to supervise the procedure for managing abusive behavior, which does happen, to prevent MSF employees from taking advantage of the disruption in the country.
By abusive behavior, I mean people who take advantage of their status as an employee of a wealthy humanitarian organization to exploit the huge chasm between relief aid worker and victim whose very existence relies on generosity.
And there have been cases. Abuse of power, sexual abuse, corruption and favoritism. Such behavior is rare, but MSF has to play a supervisory role without getting embroiled in settling personal scores. Yet another role is to secure the team's independence with regard to the International Criminal Court, ICC.
If right from the time we start our work, people perceive us as gathering information, evidence of torture and abuse, so that the ICC prosecutor can get rid of an incumbent president, obviously our scope will be considerably reduced.
In Libya, as in other countries in conflict situations, this independence was essential to the effectiveness of MSF's actions. So the teams had to choose between cooperating with the ICC, inconceivable, and their duty to speak out and raise the alarm. Témoignage being one of the founding principles of MSF.